Welcome. I'm your host, Nancy Burdick, and this is So Many Possibilities, a new program focused on what's going on in the local fiber arts scene. Whether you're an artist who prefers the solitude of your own studio or one who thrives on the energy of a group, we hope these episodes inspire you to try something new or make some time to get back to something you love. In this episode, we showcase two different ways quilters are using their talents to provide comfort, honor, and funds for very worthy causes. We open with local fiber artist Lima Whitty, who shares her passion and quilting talents for the animals of the Tompton Farm and Sanctuary. Oftentimes, quilting creations are gifted to benefit others through auctions and raffles. Shining a spotlight on Hopkinton resident Lima Whitty and how she uses her quilting talent to rescue and care for animals is the focus of this next segment. Lima's work has been admired through local community quilt projects like the Hopkinton Public Library Heritage Quilt and the Hopkinton 300th Anniversary Quilt, to name a few. For a while now, though, she's been using her talents to benefit the residents of the Tompton Farm and Sanctuary, located in Haverhill, New Hampshire. In addition to being a founding member and the vice president of the nonprofit, she designs and creates a magnificent handcrafted quilt each fall that's donated and raffled off for the winter hay expenses. The raffle ticket proceeds from these masterpieces help Tompton fill part of its hayloft with hundreds of bales each winter. This year's one-of-a-kind piece is called Cross Currents. Inspired by the lack of water accessibility at Tompton last winter, Lima used fabric and thread to tell the story of the ice, frozen hydrants, and pipes throughout the farm, and the one water source that was relied upon to provide gallons to the various pastures. The quilt celebrates hope with the return of spring. The simple, yet highly significant backing includes a small yellow strip added to express the artist's solidarity with Ukraine. This fundraiser quilt is 75 inches square and made from 100% cotton materials. The design is described as purely Lima Whitty, entirely original. It was designed and pieced in her home studio, and the long arm machine quilting was donated by her friend Kelsey of Hopkinton-based Blueberry Lane Studio. Design, fabric choices, piecing, quilting, and sewing require countless hours and take months to complete. This unique piece took over 700 pieces, more than 350 hours, and thousands of feet of thread. Lime is in the studio today to share how her artistry is helping make a difference on the farm and to explain how viewers can join her cause. Hi, welcome.
Hi, Nancy. How are you?
Very well. Thanks for coming by. I am a member of Marathon Quilters, as are you, and we work as part of our group's mission to create quilts for donation for charities. We do that as a group, but some take it on their own and find a passion of their own. And you've done that for Tompton Farm and Sanctuary. Annually, you make a masterpiece that's raffled off. This quilt behind us is this year's masterpiece, but I'm wondering if you can share what inspires you for an annual quilt project.
Sure, good question. I'm at the farm a lot, and so I get inspired by everything around, whether it be the weather, the mountains, but mostly the animals. But like you said, this was from our frozen water hydrants, and our one water source that froze and melted. And I know. The other ones, I've used the different colors of the animals, browns, sometimes it's the sky. There's a lot there. And I do all improvisational piecing. I don't follow a pattern because I'm not very good at that. And I love Tompton. You know, you have to find that passion. And I don't have the money to donate to them that much, so I do what I can and raise money.
And so if people went on to the Tompton Farm website, they'd be able to find out about opportunities for annual raffle quilt drives or other donation opportunities and even opportunities to visit the farm. Isn't that right?
Absolutely. We have tours during the summer. You don't want to go there in the winter.
Okay.
And like I say, every fall we have the raffle quilt.
Okay. There's a website. You can also look for you on Facebook. And if they have any other questions about the raffle, they can use the contact information on either of those places and find out more.
Sure, or you could track me down in Hopkinton.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you. Good luck with the raffle. I hope
Thank
it
you.
helps fill that hayloft.
I sure hope so too.
Okay. Moving from one quilter to a coalition of thousands across the country. Next, Teresa Perrault, the Massachusetts Regional Coordinator for the Quilts of Valor Foundation, shares how the work of many provides comfort and thanks to those who sacrificed while serving our nation. Together, Teresa and quilter Meredith Mombaquette explain the program and process and share some of their finished quilts.
Well, I'm Teresa Perrault, and I'm here from the Massachusetts State Coordinator for the Quilts of Valor Foundation. Our purpose and our mission is to be able to cover all veterans and military personnel with a quilt of valor that's going to comfort, honor, and a sign of gratitude for our veterans. It's easy enough to be able to get a Quilts of Valor. All you have to do is go onto the website. There is a place to request one. Quilts of Valor was originally started by a lady named Catherine Roberts, and her son was deployed. She took it and decided that she was very depressed and despondent, and she found a really good cause to be able to cover all veterans because she wanted to comfort him. What do you do when you comfort somebody? You give them a great big hug or you wrap them in a blanket. So Catherine started the Quilts of Valor organization with a half a dozen quilts, which now has risen to over 300,000 quilts being awarded as of probably this year. I think it's 328,565 as of yesterday. We get together. There are 6 quilts guilds or quilts groups in Massachusetts, and what we do is we get together on Sunday afternoons, Friday nights, Tuesday mornings. We sew, we make blocks. Now this year we have the block that is the 2022 year block. I don't know or don't have a picture of the 2023 year block yet, but the blocks don't all have to be this one. This one happens to be the foundation yearly block, and this is the quilts that it goes into. It's just an example to show you what we can do with little pieces of material. We have people who do this all the time. People will take blocks or kits or material home, do it at home, and then mail it in when it's done. So you don't have to work on a timely schedule. We take it all year long. Our purpose is, again, to make sure that we cover all veterans that have been in the service. No questions asked, no special job, no special place that they have had to serve. It's just the philosophy is touched by war. Anybody can make a block, anybody can make a quilt or join us. We have loads of people who are willing to help and to guide somebody who doesn't sew. But at the same time, when you come to see one of our little sew-ins, you don't even have to sew. You can cut material, you can very easily just iron material. We have people who have long arm quilting machines. Once the blocks are put together in big pieces which make a top, we put it together with warm batting and a backing, and we make up kits that go to people who have long arm quilting machines. The long arm quilting machines will do it faster. We could never do it by hand to get enough out. Once it's done, it comes back for binding. In order to get a quilt, you can go online and nominate the particular veteran. There is no big process for vetting, just some small information, but they do deserve a quilt. One of the things that we do is we store material in the Charlton Sewing Center group's closet. We have quilts here that are ready to go to the people who have long arm quilting machines. Supplies are kept here, but they're also kept at the different places where we meet and greet and do our sewing. If someone makes quilts or makes batting or quilts and decides that they want to send them locally, they can send them to us. We have a post office box in Spencer. It's Post Office Box 781. You can also reach me by going onto the website and ask for the coordinator for the state, and you'll be able to send me an email. I can connect with you to make sure that you get the right people. We can get you the groups in the local area. There is a group in Stowe called the Quilted Crow, which will accept blocks. They also make quilts. They work with a group in Townsend. We have a group in Springfield, a group in Millbury, and another group that is in North Brookfield. So there are plenty of people around who can tell you about Quilts of Valor. Please, please make sure that you take your time. Don't rush. We want quality, but we also want to make sure that the veteran is getting something that everybody has done with their hands and with a lot of love. We also have someone here who will give you a little explanation of how the quilt is done. Again, I focused on the national block, just to give you an example of where your quilt would go. The blocks that you send us don't always have to be the national block. We can do magic with all kinds of different stuff. This is the block itself. This is what makes the quilt unique, because we have got little pieces in between. We've got to match it all in. We've got a nice little border, and then once the second border is out, and then Meredith was the one who took it and gave it to a long arm quilter, and when it came back she did the binding, and as you can see she put a flange on it. So that's a little bit of a special way of binding a quilt. Not everybody does it the same, but it doesn't have to have it, but because she enjoys it, am I right?
Yeah,
You
it saves
enjoy it?
my hands.
It saves her hands. It's done by machine. Now the other thing we forgot to mention on the quilt was each quilt, when it's given out, is also given out with a label. And on the label it says Quilt of Valor, to comfort these touched by war. It says who it's awarded to, the date it's awarded, and who it's pieced by, who quilted it. That happened to be Ann Pietrus, and it was bound by Meredith also. You also get to see a little signature block. Sometimes we run a signature block drive where we have people who are interested in making sure that they give their thanks. So they've signed little blocks to say, thank you for your service, may God bless you. They can be anonymous, they can be signed, and what happens is then they are put onto the blocks, to the quilt, also as a reminder that somebody cares. You just ran a signature block drive,
Yeah.
and we got quite a few. It doesn't cost anything. None of these quilts cost anything. All they do is make sure that everybody is making sure that they have a great place to be able to give out their thanks.
And I save everything. These were left over from another quilt. And I trimmed them all down so they'd be the right size, and figured out how to get them all going the same direction. So it helps me out too. It gives me,
Comfort.
well, that, and gets my mind creating, which we all need after
Yep.
COVID.
After COVID, we all need to do something that's going to make us feel worthy.
So, and his mind is as sharp as can be.
Yeah.
I said, well, he probably won't live very much longer to enjoy it. He's going to be 104 in May.
Oh, fantastic.
And every time he sees me, he hugs me and he says, I love my quilt.
I hope you were inspired by the community quilting efforts you saw in this episode. If you want to learn more about the programs and activities offered through the Tompton Farm and Sanctuary or the Quilts of Valor Foundation, please visit their websites, which will run after the film credits. Here's a quick how-to on making the 2023 Quilts of Valor Block Drive Quilt block. The 2023 block called the Split Back Star Block. All right, as we learned from the Quilts of Valor Foundation Regional Director Teresa, there is an annual block drive, and that means that they decide on a block pattern, one block, one square, and share the pattern for free online for anybody to make one or any number to make a quilt for a veteran or a service member's family. So this year's block is the Split Back Star Block, and it is a 12-inch finished block, and it is made of red, white, and blue fabrics. Not as scrappy. The reds are all the same, the blues are all the same, and the white is the same fabric. It's very easy to make. I whipped this up in about 15 minutes today for this tutorial. So you're going to need the directions, which are available online on the Quilts of Valor website. We'll also put a link to that on the bottom of this credit roll. But I just grabbed some reds, a white, and blue. It's put together from a 5-inch square, several 4.5-inch squares, and even more 2.5-inch squares. And so you're going to follow the directions. You're going to sew them together in rows, and you're going to make 1 or 100, however many you want. It's a great project for a scout group or a book club or community group or a neighborhood group, or just one person. You can make one, you can make several, and mail them in to the Quilts of Valor Foundation, and they'll be put into a quilt. So if you have an interest and some time, I hope you'll check this out, the split back star block for the Quilts of Valor. Here's a bonus how-to on how to use t-shirts and baby clothes and anything else that you've been saving for a special project. And lots of times people are interested in a t-shirt throw or a t-shirt quilt as a graduation gift or a birthday gift or a retirement gift. So here's a quick how-to. The difference for me between a t-shirt throw and a t-shirt quilt is for a t-shirt throw, I don't use batting. Here's an example of a t-shirt throw. It's t-shirts that are stabilized, we'll get to that in a minute, and a backing. It's sweatshirt material for here. Just I buy it by the yard at Joann's or online. You can find fleece, or sweatshirt fleece. And for a t-shirt throw, it's lighter in weight, oftentimes, than a quilt because it's only 2 layers, the t-shirts and the backing. A t-shirt quilt, like the quilt that's hanging behind me, is made from a top, batting in the middle, and a backing, and then it is quilted densely, all 3 layers through, and that's a t-shirt quilt. The top on that is t-shirts with fabric. Top on this is just t-shirts. So, like I say, a lot of people have things laying around. They want to make a quilt or a throw. They don't know if they can, or they want to make it and they don't have a sewing machine or the time and want to hire somebody to do it. There are lots of people who make t-shirt quilts and t-shirt throws, and I'll show you how I've done several of them. Here's an example of a piece of a t-shirt. It's actually a sweatshirt, but you can use sweatshirt, sweatpants, t-shirts, blankets. It's just the breastplate, I guess you'd say, of a sweatshirt. So I cut it into a square. This is not the exact square, but I may cut it down. But I just cut it. That's the fleecy back. This is the front. Next, you'd take stabilizer, which you find in Joann's. It's tacky on one side and usually white, though you may find a darker color in some shops. So you're going to take the tacky side, which has adhesive glue on it, and you're going to put that onto the back side of your fabric. Press it down with your iron. You have to follow the directions on the package because too high of heat, you will melt this thing, and you don't want to do that, or you'll end up with creases. So it's usually a medium heat, but please read the directions on the stabilizer package. So you're going to fuse that on. It's also called fusible web or stabilizer. You fuse it. And the reason that you fuse it is so that you don't have your material stretching. You can get a true square. And if you're going to be making columns of squares, you want to have those stabilized nice and firmly so that they're not stretching all over the place. So once you get your shirts, sweatpants, whatever it is you're using, and you have your section fused, you are ready to cut down to the size that you want. I used rectangles. I used a number of different sizes so that my width was standard across all of my shirts in a column. But the length of each shirt in a column could differ, so it's sort of a graduated. And then I'd have 3 columns in this particular throw, sew those together. And then I have a top just of t-shirts fused to stabilizer. Then I have a backing that's a little bit larger, than the top of my quilt. And I'm going to take the good side, or the pretty side, if you will, of the sweatshirt fabric, and I'm going to turn the top to have pretty side down on there. And I'm going to sew around 3 sides and only halfway down the 4th side. So I might start halfway through on one of the sides, go down, go all the way around the remaining 3, and then halfway down. I want to leave myself a pretty good size hole so that I can pull out the pretty sides, have it be the way I want it, and I'm going to be top stitching around the side to secure it. So I've got that top stitching down right along here, so that's going to hold it down, but it's not going to secure it all over, and I'm going to have to put it under a sewing machine and sew. We call it stitching in the ditch. Stitch in the ditch where each shirt meets the next shirt, and then the columns. And then you'll end up with your lightweight throw. In this case, your t-shirts fused and just the backing. And you're going to sew around 3 3¾ sides. And then you're going to pull it out, plait it all down, top stitch around the edge, or do the center columns and then the blocks, and then you could top stitch at the end if you like. But you want to keep it as smoothed out as possible. You don't want any lumps. The t-shirt quilt behind me is a little bit different of a process. It starts the same way with your squares or your rectangles of fabric fused onto a stabilizer, but as you see in that example, there's sashing blue fabric sashed to each side of the t-shirt squares, and then there are little yellow cornerstones that are attached to that, and then that entire inner rectangle is sewn to outer fabric, which is multicolored fabric. Then I have that whole top, and I put that right side up, and then I have batting, and then I have backing fabric right side down, and that's a sandwich that I'm going to quilt densely all throughout. I'm going to use my long arm sewing machine, but prior to that, I just used the regular tabletop sewing machine, my domestic machine. It took a little longer to wrangle, pin down to make sure I had it all nice and smooth, but I had great results, was very satisfied, and I've made several quilts for family members like the ones behind me, and I've made about 100 more for charity auction projects and other kinds of commissioned projects. So if you're thinking about trying your hand at a quilt, a t-shirt throw or a t-shirt quilt, I'll tell you, it's possible. Absolutely possible, and it's not that hard. If you have any interest in trying it after you see this video and you want to get in touch with somebody who knows a little bit more about making them, locally, members of the Marathon Quilters Guild, we call it Marathon Quilt Guild. MarathonQuiltersGuild.com is our website, and we'd be happy to return any email we get or a phone call on information on how to make a t-shirt quilt like this. It's a lot of fun, and as I say, it's a great sentimental gift to give people for big occasions. So I hope you'll give it a try. Volunteering time and talent are options worth considering. There are so many possibilities for lending a hand for a really great cause. Thanks for watching.